aren't you yourself proof that it's not necessary to force children onto these, and that you can transition after you become an adult? It worked out for you, right?
I suppose.
Because if we look at the WPATH data, what it shows is something quite striking. It shows that if kids that identify as having gender identity disorder, right, those that are referred to clinics, what happens is that over 95% of them, and this is based on various studies, again, that's citing in WPATH, almost 95% of them that are never given a medical intervention end up not transitioning. They go back to their gender assigned at birth. This implies one of two things. Either one, that hormone blockers make it almost 100%, or make it 95% likely that once you get on hormone blockers, that you're never going to go back to your gender assigned at birth. But if you don't get on hormone blockers, well over 85 to 90% of kids do go back to their gender assigned at birth. So either one, these hormone blockers are causing that transition, or secondly, the doctors are remarkably successful in only this drug, because we can see case after case when they give drugs to children that they make fuck-ups all the time. But somehow when it comes to just these drugs, they're remarkably successful in only giving it to the, quote, real trans people. And I don't think that's likely. I think the far better explanation is if you have confusion about your gender and then you take a hormone blocker so you never go through puberty, that you never know that actually, had I just gone through puberty, I would be a man. Or if you're a biological female, had I just gone through puberty, I would be a woman. Instead, you never get that opportunity because you've artificially limited that, which means that you're more likely to give in to the societal pressure. So that in itself is a harm. And the reason I brought up the self-harm levels and the mental illnesses, etc., of trans people is because you're basically dooming these kids to a lifetime of being more susceptible to self-harm, more susceptible to mental health issues, etc. That's very bad, and that's not reversible. That's something that even WPATH admits happen. So even when you say, well, I look at studies that say that these aren't, that they are reversible and they don't cause harm, I disagree. Even WPATH says that this is a real harm that happens.
Which drugs are you talking about? Are you talking about which blockers?
Well, it talks about any sort of medical intervention. So ones that are given any sort of medical intervention in the forms of sort of mechanical, like surgeries or
mechanical surgeries are not the intervention I'm speaking of. So blockers that I'm talking about are reversible, completely safe.
That's not true, because WPATH is taking the WPATH.
We're not talking about the same thing.
That's not true. We absolutely are. How many 13-year-olds are getting the?
No. Let me explain. So the blockers that people are given are it's called spirolactone, and it's like 50 milligrams, and essentially it is if you're on it for a little bit, and you decide, okay, well, then this is the right one, then it's right for you, and it's completely, the effects are completely reversible for that.
2%. According to the De Vries study, which I've read, that came out in 2022, it's a Dutch clinic, said that of the children that are given spirolactone, 98% continue with treatment and end up transitioning. So this is exactly the type of thing that I'm telling you that WPATH says.
Well, yeah, because it's
0.5%. The U.S. Trans Youth Study from Turbitinol in 2022 say 0.5% ends up transitioning back. The Kaiser study and from Greeninol in 2022 say 8.3% transition back. The systemic review from Campusinol say that it's 1 to 7%, right? The UK case study review in 2022, less than 5% detransition. So this includes spirolactone in these. So yeah, you're absolutely wrong. Spirolactone isn't some magical one that, no. A huge amount of people that get put on spirolactone end up transitioning back. No, that's not what happens.
No, it's not about that's not what I'm saying. What you're saying is when you're saying about the effects, right, of blockers.
I'm saying
blockers are reversible. And
no. I'm saying they're not. right? Here's what you're saying, right? Let me steelman your
No,
argument.
but hold on, you're not listening because I'm the person who went through this, and
But we're
I would
talking
know.
about two different things, which is why I'm trying to explain my argument.
The effects of the medicine, well, in terms of the blockers, are reversible. Now,
But
in
they're
terms
not,
of,
because you're not including psychological effects. That's my
well,
argument.
but that's
Even if you're right that the physical effects are reversible, the psychological aren't. And I could prove that because 98% that get on it continue on with the transition. And
well,
over 90% that don't get on it do go back to their gender assigned at birth. So it's clear that these drugs aren't reversible when it comes to the mental proportion of it, because almost everyone that gets on these drugs continues forward with the transition. And almost everyone that doesn't get on the drugs goes back to their gender assigned at birth. So it's clear that something is happening with these drugs that's pushing people almost unanimously to continue on with transitioning. So no, it is not reversible in that sense. That's the argument that I'm making. Now,
well,
there are
the
other
argument that
issues
you're
about bone
making
density
is
and other
kind
things,
of
but I don't
wrong.
even need to get into those arguments, right? So, I mean, so this is why it's a very bad idea
You
to put
don't know
kids.
what the effects of that blocker does, so you don't. No.
If I listen, right? If there's a drug out there and this drug is designed to give me big muscles, it's like some sort of steroid, and 99% of people that take this drug go on to kill their wife, right? Would you say, well, but the effects on your muscles, if you stop taking it, are completely reversible? And you don't know what the effect. At some point, we have to say, we're seeing a pattern. Over 95% of people that take this have this outcome. And so I think it's fair to say, look, this drug is causing some sort of effect to get to this outcome. That's what we're talking about, these puberty blockers. Like,
Well,
I think that if we see that almost everyone, every kid that says, hey, I have gender dysphoria or I have, gender
I
identity
think
issues,
you're misapplying the statistics.
I don't. Tell me where I'm
I
wrong.
think you are.
Okay, tell me where I'm wrong.
I think that
So there's two types of statistics I'm telling. I'll break them down in the two areas I'm talking. You tell me which one I'm wrong. One, almost all kids that are referred to a gender clinic, right, for some sort of gender dysphoria or trans. Let me finish. Almost all of them, if not given medications, revert back to their gender assigned at birth. Do you agree with that?
no.
That's absolutely true. WPATH says that as well. Okay, but if I'm not wrong, will you admit that you're wrong then, and then that these blockers are dangerous and not reversible?
Well, I'm not going to admit that they're dangerous because they're not dangerous.
Well, of course they are. If they're causing people to transition when they elsewise wouldn't have, for the claim that the majority of kids, the overwhelming majority of kids that get some sort of diagnosis as trans that aren't given drugs revert back to their gender assigned at birth. You're saying that's not true?
Are you talking about the standards of care for WPATH 7?
Yes, I believe that was the document. So the WPET one I looked at, I'm having difficulty finding it, but here's some of the numbers that I think they use. I remember the Sing study. Sing in 2012 says that 88% went back to their gender assigned at birth if they were not given any medical interventions. Other studies that I'm seeing are Drummond et al., 88% went back. Ristori and Stutzman 2006 said 60 to 90% if they're not giving drugs refer back. Stensma says 63% desisted. 60 to 88%, it seems to be the consensus range.
That study was from 1998.
Well, no, the studies I'm talking about, Sing's 2012.
Read that.
Okay, what's it say? How many kids that aren't given any medical interventions that identify having gender issues transition fully if they're not given medical interventions? What percentage revert back versus that go fully? That's the issue. So tell me what WPATH 8 says. I already have that up. My question is, you're telling me that somewhere in here it says that almost everyone that's identified as being trans fully goes through with it, even if they're not given medical interventions.
Well,
that's the only question that I'm asking here.
Well, hold on a minute. Let's just go through it together here.
Okay.
So, I think people should have the freedom to do. My belief is that people should have the freedom to make the choice that they deserve with their care.
Well, that's fine for adults, but we understand that's not the case with children, correct?
Yes.
So then the issue that we're talking about specifically is hormone blockers for children. And so the way I fully concede that as an adult, if you want to take some sort of hormone blocker, as long as the doctor is being upfront with you about the potential risks, have at it. I don't have a problem with it. My issue is with children. And so when I bring that issue up, you're like, yeah, of course, because it's completely reversible. I'm saying that it's not. That almost everyone that's put on these blockers end up then transitioning. And if they're not put on the blockers, most of them, the study seems to suggest,
here we go.
transition back.
Here's what you're looking for.
Okay.
Gender hormone therapy in youth.
What page are we looking at on WPATH 8 here?
So you're going to want to look at S112 to S113. Statement 12.4, statement 12.2. Look at statement 12 and
Chapter 12, hormone therapy.
12. Yeah, just look through all that. You'll find the information that you just read the whole entire chapter. That'll give you all the information you'll need. And then next time we chat about
No. I disagree. I don't even think that it's as I'm skimming through this very fast, I could read pretty fast. I don't see that it has the levels that I'm asking for whatsoever. I understand that WPAT's going to say, yes, it's a good thing to give hormone blockers to children.
Going to give you control studies. So
I again disagree. I understand that they're going to promote studies that they think suggest that children be given this. I'm saying that the values that they're putting on this are different. I'm looking specifically.
This has a lot of studies actually associated with it. This is a very real piece of scientific data. Like it has a lot of references.
Again, I could do the same thing. I could read for the Society for Evidence-Based Gender Medicine. I could read 2020 UK National Institute for Health undertook 2 systemic evidence reviews of GnRH, known as puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones, as treatments for gender dysphoric patients under 18. These reviews committed by the NHS in England as part of the Review in Gender Dysphoria Healthcare led by Dr. Hilary Case OBE. The reviews were published in March 2021. The review of the Agnosis puberty blockers makes for sobering reading. Its major finding is that the puberty blockers lead to little to no change in gender dysphoria, mental health, body image, or psychosocial functioning. In the few studies that did report change, the results could be attributable to bias or chance, or were deemed unreliable. The landmark Dutch study by De Vries et al. In 2011 was considered at high risk of bias and poor quality overall. The reviewers suggested that the findings of no change may in practice be clinically significant in view of the possibility of the study subjects' distress might otherwise have increased. The reviewers cautioned that all studies evaluated had results of very low certainty. The review of cross-sex hormones identified similar shortcomings in the quality of evidence. These latest 2 systemic reviews echo serious concerns about the quality of evidence, outlined Professor Carl Hennigan, the director of Oxford Center of Evidence-Based Medical Studies and the editor-in-chief. Similar concerns of the absence of quality studies in vital area were also noted by systemic review by Sweden and Finland in the last 18 months, which both banned puberty blockers for children. The 2 systemic reviews commissioned by the U.S.-based Endocrine Society in 2018 concur with the finding of the weak evidence base, stating that the findings of benefits of hormone interventions in terms of psychological functioning and overall quality of life comes from very low evidence. Despite this, the Endocrine Society instructed clinicians to proceed with gender dysphoric youths with hormone interventions in its guidelines. The low confidence in the balance of risk and benefits of hormone interventions calls for extreme caution when working with gender dysphoric youth, who are in the midst of developmentally appropriate phase of identity exploration and consolidation. The irreversible nature of these effects of cross hormones and the potential for puberty blockers to alter the natural course of identity formation should give pause to all clinicians. Studies consistently show that the vast majority of patients with childhood onset gender distress who are not treated with gender affirmative social transition or medical interventions grow up to be LGBT adults. In other words, they are gay, they're lesbian, but they don't trans. However, there's emerging evidence that socially transitioned and puberty suppressed children have much higher persistence of transgender identification. That's exactly the point I'm making. So the point is that most kids that have gender identity issues grow out of it. But once you put them on puberty blockers, even WPATH suggests that it's something like 98% go on with the transition. And what I'm saying is that that's tantamount to an irreversible decision. And you've already agreed that for adults, it's one thing. You should be able to make a choice, but not for children. So again, if I'm correct, and the data does seem to suggest that I am, why should we allow children to have these interventions? In fact, aren't you yourself proof that it's not necessary to force children onto these, that you can transition after you become an adult? It worked out for you, right?
I suppose. But I don't like the idea of the fact that I am privileged.
But how so? You're
my
not
wealth.
privileged. Well, okay, with your wealth, fair enough. That's one thing.
I
But you're
mean,
not privileged.
I'm wealthy. I have education. Like I'm tempted to look at the comments on the.
Well, forget the comments in the chat. That's irrelevant. You're talking to me, right? Like, but the idea of your privilege, of wealth is one thing, right?
Here
But
we go. What's this?
What's up?
Well,
The point I'm
that's what I'm looking for.
the point I'm trying to make is right. Your privilege aside, so maybe you could make a claim for, well, certain people should be given, subsidies or what.
With you, I'm pretty tired.
All right, that's fine. We could end it. I'm just saying, you haven't made a case for why your very existence and the very fact that you transitioned, right, seems to suggest that there's no problem transitioning once you become an adult. So why would we risk altering children for something that's of little to no benefit? The fact that they're able to transition once they become an adult if they so choose.
I don't really care.
What's that?
People can do whatever they want. I don't care.
But not children.
Well, I mean, sure. I mean, whatever.
You agree with that, right? Like if a child, for example, wants a tattoo, would you allow them to get one?
If they're my kid, if they want to get a tattoo.
No.
As long as they make a really, as long as they decide and they commit.
So wait, how young would you allow your child to get a tattoo?
17.
Okay, that's a little different. What about a 13-year-old?
I'd let them get like one of those like
henna, like that's not an actual tattoo.
Not a real one, no.
Yeah, okay.
And that's fair. It's a compromise. You have to be able to compromise.
But you understand that what we're suggesting is the idea of, just let people do what they want. Even you're admitting, well, no, I wouldn't allow a 13-year-old to dramatically alter their body with ink. I would give them a temporary tattoo or a henna tattoo that's not permanent. Sure.
I agree with that. Okay. And that's a good compromise.
But then when it comes to transitioning, if you're unwilling to allow a child to make the decision to alter their body with ink, why would you allow them to alter their body with medications? That's far more of a dramatic alteration of the body than a tattoo.
Parents. I mean, the parents would have to be like the people deciding at that point.
Okay, so if as a parent you decide to allow your kid to have a tattoo, should they?
Yeah, if it's my kid.
Okay, I almost don't want to ask this. Let's say that there's a parent of a 15-year-old, right? And they decide
to get a tattoo on their face.
Well, let's do something more serious than that. What if they decide to let them date a 22-year-old? Should that be okay?
That isn't okay.
Why not? So in other words,
it's
agreed. But so what we say there is, even if the parent wants to make a bad choice for the child, we don't allow it, correct?
Well, yeah, obviously.
Okay.
There are lines, and I think we share a lot of moral lines.
So then the point I'm trying to make, let's go back to the tattoo example. No, we shouldn't allow a parent that said, you know what, I'm okay with my kid getting a face tattoo at 13 because I've made the decision. We would still say no.
Yeah, no.
Right.
Yeah,
so then again, back to the puberty blockers and the medical interventions. Why should we allow parents to make that decisions for children?
Because parents own their children.
Then why not allow the parents to have tattoos for their children?
Well, we do.
We don't. There's no, we would not allow a parent to allow a 13-year-old kid to get a tattoo on their face and say, well, the parent said it's okay.
Yeah, unless the parent said it was okay, right?
Okay, so your argument is that the parent owns the child. So even if it's something that's a poor decision, such as getting a face tattoo, as long as the parent says it's okay, then we should allow that to occur.
Well, not all the time, obviously.
But why? That's the point. With the tattoo, you would acknowledge, no, we shouldn't.
At some point, there is a line with like the law and stuff.
Well, of course, there is a line. We definitely allow. See, the idea that parents own their children, yes and no. I understand what you mean by it. You don't mean literally own. You mean that we trust that it should be up to parents and not the state to make medical decisions for their children. My point, though, is
wait, tattoos are illegal for minors? I had no idea. I was just like bluffing.
I think the tattoos are illegal for minors. Yes,
I had no idea.
Or maybe at 16 or something, but certainly it would be illegal for a tattoo artist. I believe it would be absolutely illegal for you to permanently tattoo like an 8-year-old. You as the artist,
I had no
it would
idea.
Okay, but the premise, you're acknowledging this. You're acknowledging that there is a level, despite the fact that we acknowledge that parents could make decisions for their child in certain things. There is a level where we say some things are such bad ideas, the most grotesque of which would be sexual relations, but there's certainly a bunch of other that aren't that grotesque that we would say those are so bad that we do not allow the parents to say, yes, my child can do this, right? For example, drugs. Or alcohol. We don't say that, hey, if a parent says my 12-year-old could drink whiskey, fuck it, go at it. We say, no, it doesn't matter. Just because the parent's allowed to make medical decisions and like dietary decisions for children, they can't do that. Given that, if it's true that these puberty blockers actually lead to almost everyone going through with the transition, and the vast majority of those kids wouldn't have gone through with the transition had they not been put in the puberty blockers, why should we not say that that's not legal? That we don't allow parents to do that, particularly when all of the way I view things, because it's the debate brain in me, because I debated in colleges, you weigh the pros and cons. So the cons of allowing this is the research is still out. There's conflicting research about how effective and how positive these sort of puberty blockers are. And there's conflicting research about how bad it is for people and how it's not physically reversible. And the evidence is overwhelming that it's not mentally reversible, that almost everyone that gets it ends up transitioning. So those are the harms. But what's the harms of not giving them the blockers? Well, you yourself prove it. Not much. You became an adult. You decided that you wanted to transition then. Great. No problem. But you shouldn't have been allowed to make that decision at 15. That's my issue. So why not just tell kids, wait until you're 18?
You know what? Well, I mean, I'm too tired for that to answer that question. But
well, think about it then.
I don't really. I'm just tired.
It's fair enough.
I've been like, but to be honest with you, being passable like in society is like a huge issue.
So that's cosmetic then. So the earlier the interventions come, cosmetically you may look more possible. That's the argument?
Well, yeah, I mean it's a huge part of it.
But again, that's not going to help you very much because then the same argument, now we could take it to plastic surgery, right? So then why
is a wall for a lot of people.
But that's, unfortunately, that's life even for people that aren't trans. I happen to not be the most attractive person. It is what it is, right? Like, and I understand that attractive levels can obviously have an effect on someone's psychology, their mental health.
Somebody commit.
What's that?
Somebody said they were going to commit in the chat.
No, please don't even say that in the chat. And anyone that says that shit, don't be saying that. It's not. It's not joking about it, and it's not TOS friendly anyways. Point is, though, right, like, the idea that, well, purely for cosmetic reasons, because you'll be more attractive to what you want to present as when you're 13, so you should be allowed to take these dangerous drugs, that seems to be a bad standard. I mean, this same standard could justify, like, well, this is why I need to get on, like, mass amounts of, like, HGH when I'm 14, so that I could have the body I want when I'm 18, because that's very important to my self-worth, and I want to be fucking ripped. See the problem? That's it. That's all I'm saying. You don't have to show your face, it's fine. But I don't mind you, I'm just saying. All I'm saying is it's clear that you're possible to make these decisions with you're an adult, and I'm perfectly fine with that. Just like I would say with something like breast augmentation. I don't want fucking 16-year-olds getting breast implants. If you're 18 and you want to get the breast implant, more power to you. Again, the only caveat is as long as the doctors that are giving you this are being as truthful as possible with what the ramifications are of this. As long as you as an adult accept, yes, I want to transition. I want to go through the surgeries. I don't have a problem with it. I think that it's a mistake myself, but you're an adult. You should be allowed to make those decisions. But what I have a problem with is that we are allowing these sort of things to occur with children. And I think that there is a movement in this country, and I think that some trans people, like, for example, Buck Angel, do you know who that is? Buck Angel is a female to male transition who looks like a fucking biker dude, right? Like, looks like a dude, right? Buck Angel talks about this a lot, that, like, although he now identifies as trans, right? He understands that there's sort of this social contagion aspect, particularly with children, where they're pressuring children into these sorts of things and thinks it's wrong. So, anyways, I'll let you go, though, if you like. It looks like you're muted now. But yeah, thanks for the call. Now listen, say what you will about trans ideology, whatever, and I certainly find it to be very, very, very bad thing, one of the most important things, but I do differentiate in this degree. If you're an adult and you want to go through this shit, go for it. Go for it. But don't force this shit on children.